You don't have a knowledge gap. You have a doing gap. I think if people got that in really every area of their life, things would go, they would flow, right? We're always wanting yet one more thing before we do the thing, right? We need this to do that. But you don't need more knowledge a lot of times. You really just need the action. We are going to dive in to some really exciting territory, and that is taking a passion and getting your voice out there and actually growing a pretty fabulous following from it. And there's not many people who are better than Dr. Orlena who can share that kind of journey with you. Welcome to the stage, Dr. Orlena.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, yeah, I became a fan of your podcast, Fit and Fabulous at 40 and Beyond, quite a while ago. It's just, I love your style. They're short, and you really hit on all of those little subjects that I care about, right? In wanting to live my biggest, broadest life at beyond 40. And so tell me a little bit about how you became fit and fabulous over 40, but also at what point did you say in your mind, I want to actually take this to an audience? I think other people might be interested in this as well. And what made you choose the avenue that you chose? I know you're an author, but that you also have this huge following. You're in the top 2.5% of literally millions of podcasts. That's pretty huge. You're striking a chord. Can I share a little bit of that journey with us?
Well, thank you so much, because I think today is the first time that I've even thought that. I just kind of get on with my podcast and hope that somebody is listening. And so, yes, I did know that I was in the top 2%, but yeah, thank you. I just thought it was one of those stats that was probably a little bit inaccurate, to be perfectly honest.
It's very accurate. And then the other score is how engaged people are, how often the same people come back. And your score there is really high. So you're striking a chord. And I love that you really you're just like, I just was interested in this. So I just did the thing and people started following. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think both of them came together. So I will just backtrack and tell you a little bit of my story so it kind of makes sense. So I trained as a pediatric doctor in the UK. And I loved being a pediatric doctor. I really loved helping people, particularly obviously children, get to optimal health. And obviously when you're working as a doctor, that's very much you're already unwell. And that's why you're seeing a doctor, as opposed to what I now do, which is help people not go to the doctor. But I moved to Spain in 2011, and I really moved with what I call my eyes wide shut, which I just thought I was going to move to Spain and be a doctor and it was all going to be easy. And that did not quite happen as easily as I thought. I also, on top of that, had 4 young children. So my children were all under the age of 4.5. I had twins who were number 3 and 4. I like a little bonus extra one. So I've now moved from being like quite a high stress job, go career, to coming to a grinding halt with 4 children under 4.5, and really my identity just changing and me suffering inside and thinking, what am I going to do? And at that time I thought, what do I know about? I know about kids' health. My husband had this idea that he was going to do printing, publishing. That didn't ever materialize, but I wrote this book called Snotty Noses, which was really about looking after children under the age of 1, which is what I did all the time in my life, like when they were unwell. And so I published that, and I really didn't know anything about blogging or the internet or anything. And also, parallel to that, I could really see myself almost being grumpy mum. Like I lived my dream life. I've moved from the UK to Spain, and yet somehow I'm dissatisfied, and it didn't just magic everything better. So the two things kind of went parallel. I realized that I basically started prioritizing my own health and wellness in terms of exercise and nutrition and emotional wellness. And I started doing this blog and realizing that blogging was not for me. I hated it. I wasn't very good at it. I could see everyone else doing so much better than me and my blog just trundling along. But with my very good work ethic, I just carried on and I carried on and I carried on. And I also started looking at how to help children eat healthily because my kids were very picky eaters. But eventually I pivoted, and I pivoted really to help mothers and women over 40 and help them lead their best life. Because by this stage, I've discovered that, oh my goodness, I feel so much better and I feel amazing because I'm actually leading a healthy life and doing these things. I'm looking after myself. And that's really what other women want, but they don't know how to do it because they're busy doing other things. And side by side to that, I realized that my way of giving information is verbal and video. I like to talk and I like to, so, that's audio and video. And that really was just easy for me. So I started my podcast. And when I started my podcast, I started off having experts. So I'm lucky enough because I'm a physician. It was easy for me to get, I had a cardiologist on, amazing cardiologist on who was all about lifestyle medicine. And I've had a neurologist on who talked about how to lead a healthy life to minimize your risk of getting neurological diseases and cancer and all of those things. And it's really interesting that all of these experts said basically the same thing. They said lead a healthy life, and I can happily tell you what that was. And in parallel to that, I obviously have my own clients and people that I work with, and they have the same problems that we talk about time and time again. I always say to people, you don't have a knowledge gap, you have a doing gap. And that doing is something that we have to repeat. We have to keep motivating ourselves. And that's essentially what I talk about. I just often wake up and think, what should I talk about today? And I chat for 20 minutes and then I press go. That's my system in a nutshell.
Love it. And I love your quote. I'm actually writing it down because we do quotes. So we'll feature this one for you. You don't have a knowledge gap. You have a doing gap. I think if people got that in really every area of their life, things would go, they would flow, right? We're always wanting yet one more thing before we do the thing, right? We need this to do that. We need to get healthy to go to the gym because we're too embarrassed to go to the gym and are unhealthy, say whatever it is that we tell ourselves, right? But, you don't need more knowledge a lot of times. You really just need the action.
Yeah.
And each step gives you the knowledge that you need. I also love, Dr. Orlena, that you talked about, you tried blogging and you realized that was not the way you wanted to get your voice out there. You did not enjoy it. And that is huge, right? We all have a voice. We have real value that people are laying awake at night wanting to hear. Like the one strategy that they can get from you is what they've really been needing. And if we keep silent, they may never come across that strategy. So find what you love. Much in your world, I'm sure you encourage women, because I've been hearing your podcast, to find what they love, to get their bodies moving, to get out there and get active, right? It doesn't have to be the one way that worked for somebody else. It can be your way. And you starting off with blogging, realizing this is not for me, but then not just giving up, finding a way that was sustainable for you to get your voice out there. There are many ways to get our voices out there. I love that you wrote snotty noses. That's adorable, much like your fun personality. But that's basically it. Be you, and those who resonate, they're going to follow, which obviously you've proven that process.
Thank you.
Yeah. So when you embarked on podcasting, did you know how to do it, or did you just kind of do it and figure it out as you went, much like, that whole quote that you just had, just get out there and do it?
Yeah, it was pretty much just get out and do it. And there was a little bit of trial and error. Obviously, I set up like what I needed. I started off with a microphone, which wasn't it was an okay microphone, but I didn't really understand the difference between the different microphones. I have my husband who he's into computers and programming. So he helped me set up some of the software that I needed. And, I have to say, I started off and got lots of people to record podcasts with me. And some of those I ultimately didn't ever release, partly because, to be perfectly honest, it was just going to take me so much time to edit. Back in those days, things have moved on with AI quite a lot now. And it's actually quite easy to edit podcasts. But back then, it was literally going through the audio and taking out the bits that you didn't want. And that was really time consuming. So even though sometimes they had a good story that I wanted to tell, they had every other word was an or something like that. And I just lost track of exactly which ones I had recorded and which ones I hadn't. So essentially, some of them never made it to the light of day. But unfortunately for them, it was a learning process for me. And it made it easier for me to understand who were the people that I wanted to have. And I went through a stage after that of just going, do you know what? I'm not having guests at all and just doing it solo. I've now come back and now I have amazing guests, as we obviously have just recorded a fabulous podcast with yourself.
Well, thank you for that. And I also really love that you did it and people followed. When did you realize, this is striking a chord? People are really responding to this message. And when did you notice that people were actually tuning in and following along?
One thing that I find really difficult about podcasting is it does almost feel like it's talking into like an echo chamber, and it's very one way. And that's one thing that I find kind of a bit difficult, because I know that I have listeners. Like Buzzsprout tells me, oh, this is how many people have listened. And sometimes I talk to my clients and my clients say, your podcast is amazing. I love your podcast. Obviously, it's not geared to my clients, but I often use their stories and incorporate those in. So it is more specific to them, because if there's something that's come up in coaching, I might do a whole podcast episode for them and they'll be like, oh, I felt like you were talking to me. And I'll be like, well, that's because I was talking directly to you. So yeah, I have to confess, I didn't really know that. And I do try and get people to leave feedback. So I think it was a year into the podcast, and I managed to get people to talk to me. And one person said, I love your podcast. I've lost 6 kilograms doing what you told me. And I was like, that's amazing. I have no idea who this person is and who they are and what their name is. So yeah, I would say basically I didn't ever realize that.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm really, really looking forward, just between you and me, very secretly, I'm really looking forward to the day where somebody recognizes me in the public and says, I listened to your show, like my first fan. I think that's going to be really fun. But the big, obviously, that feels great. But the biggest thing is realizing that people are resonating with your message, and really they're tuning in. And you now are a sought after wellness motivator. That's a fact. What came first? Did your podcast come first, or your book come first, or just the fact that you're a doctor come first? How did you get to the place where now you're recognized as an expert in this space, and people want you to come and speak about it?
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I think it's just keep going. I think it's just perseverance. Like, it's very easy to chase the big thing and the big that. And if that happens, that's fabulous. But at the end of the day, I have been very, very persistent in what I do every single week without fail. For about 5 years now, I have produced a podcast which comes out once a week. I might have a week off in the summer holidays or at Christmas time, but 50 weeks out of 52, I produce a podcast. And I think people know that. So they tune in and they know that your podcast is going to come out. To answer your question, I think my podcast came first and my book came second. And my book really it's very simple. It's a very easy book. It's not a long, giant blog post. It was easy for me to write because it's really the method that I use with my clients. And it's the stuff a bit like when I first sat and wrote my book about snotty noses. That was really like, how did I do that? I just thought about, well, what do I talk to people about every single day? 50 billion times a day. When it was kids and babies, it was like they've got a snotty nose, or they're not breathing, or they're not feeding, all of those things. And then when I wrote my book for women, for people over 40, it was, what do my clients need? What are we talking about every single week? What are those things that I talk about so often that I think, I've already told you this, I'm sure. And so it was easy for me to write my book.
You're answering questions, right? That's basically it. And it flowed for you because you've been asked these questions over and over and over, and saw that some of the solutions that you gave were actually working. So I love that you didn't force it to happen. It just kind of flowed with snotty noses. And then with this book, to be sure, it's a lot of work to embark on writing a book. But I think when when it's time, it just kind of flows. It's something happens that you realize, I have been answering this question over and over and over. Maybe this should be a book. Right?
Yeah.
So you've struck on a chord there. And I also really love that you talked about the consistency piece. If there is to be success, whether you're podcasting or you are a pod guest or you write a book or a blog or you're getting on stages, that is what makes or breaks that expert from getting known in that space. And that is the consistency piece. You just kept doing it, right? And you didn't give up. So if we are sporadic, people aren't going to trust us. If we are gung-ho and all of a sudden we drop off the face of the earth, people aren't going to trust us. Once they trusted, your audience trusted that you were going to be there for them, you weren't going anywhere, then they relaxed in, and now they look forward to the release of that. They probably let you know if you're late, I would assume.
I like to think of myself as just somebody who inspires you every single week. And I think when you're making changes and when you're doing healthy living, which is obviously what I talk about, it can feel like a challenge at times. And I just fill in that, hey, I'm just reminding you, this is what we're talking about. This is what you're doing. You can do it. You can make changes. It's not as difficult as you think it is. It's easy. Just keep going. And so I just have some kind of message to keep going, to keep going. So the same consistency that I'm doing is the same consistency for them. I'm being consistent. You can be consistent too.
Well, what are some of the strategies? Because as a doctor, I know you need to understand the psychology behind those people who are going to commit to your wellness plans and those who are going to say they're going to commit and they don't even get off the ground, right? And so you understand the psychology piece behind success in that, right? Which is the same as success really in anything. Along the way, I'm sure there were challenges. I'm sure there were times where you felt like, do I really want to do this? This is a big commitment. What were your strategies for continuing on?
With the podcast?
Yes, with getting your voice out there. Yep.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. There are times. So I have my Tuesday morning is my podcast morning. And if I'm organized, then I will obviously do my podcast before that, and it will all be prepared. And all I have to do is press go on Tuesday. That rarely happens. So that means that on Tuesday, I am committed to tying it all up. And to be honest, the talking bit is the easy bit, but you still have to edit it. You have to get the images, you have to share it on social media. And that bit actually takes longer. And there are definitely times when I think I could be doing something else. And it's very difficult to see the response that you get. It's a bit like going to the gym or brushing your teeth, that when you brush your teeth on a daily basis and you don't brush your teeth once, well, there's no direct result from that. It doesn't mean that as I say to my kids, your teeth are going to turn black and fall out. But if you don't keep doing that, then at some stage they are going to do that. And so it is really just thinking, okay, do I want to do this? Do I want my podcast? And the answer is yes, I love my podcast because it's fun to do. It does inspire people. It also, my back end is that I have a group program and I work with people coaching them. And I think for people who are coming in, it really helps them see who I am and think, okay, I want to know a little bit about what she's going on about before I commit to a coaching program. But it's an easy way for them to do that. And what I find is lots of people do that when they're walking. They don't have to sit down and be 100% present. They can go for a nice stroll, which is great if you have a wellness podcast because they're actively doing something whilst they're listening to your podcast. So I think it's a win-win.
I love that you... go ahead. You go.
Well, I was just going to say it's that, reminding yourself what your big vision is and thinking, well, if I've got this vision, how do I make this happen? And the answer is, yeah, there are times when you feel like you don't want to do it. But, when we talked on my podcast about your health and wellness journey, it's focusing on the positives and focusing on what do I want as opposed to what are the negatives and what am I depriving myself of? No, what is it that I want? I want to have a thriving podcast. I want to be inspiring people. I want my life to be fun and I want other people to have that as well.
No, I love that. And you know that I do, because we've talked about this together, and we're so in sync here, right? Let's talk about health and well-being. The ones who succeed are generally, right, those who are not focusing on what they can't have, what they wish they had, what, all of that. They're focusing on that big vision and what they do get to have, and the benefits of these choices that aren't always comfortable, right? That's where their focus is. And with you, on those days that it gets hard, because any good thing is also going to have its hard days, and then the grind, right? The easy part is getting on here and the getting to dig into each other's thoughts. That's the fun part. But then there's a lot of the back end, right, that can get really boggy. But that's not what you're focusing on. You're focusing on that audience who's reaching out to you and saying, wow, you really have made a difference in my life. And I would like to dive into, you do have this group program that's pretty fabulous, right? And so has the podcast helped grow that business, or has it been something that just supports the people who are already in your space?
Now, I think a bit of both. I think it has helped grow, because I think so I do get some people who come directly from the podcast and they say, I've listened to your podcast and now I'm ready to work with you. But even people who haven't come to me from the podcast, what they do is they may come to me from a different place, but then they can go and check out my podcast episodes and they can get a little bit more information and get to know me a little bit more. So that, yeah, it definitely does help people feel more comfortable with me. They feel like they know me before they've even booked a call. And that makes it much easier for them to say, yeah, I want to join your program.
What, you mentioned some of the reasons why it's kind of been worth it for you to get your voice out there. It's fun. You get to inspire people. It does support your group program and the other things, the deeper ways that you help people. For you, Dr. Orlena, right? What has it done for you? What are some of the rewards and benefits of pushing past the grind and getting your voice out there? I guess the alternative would have been that you just kept practicing.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. And I think for me, and it was difficult for me to give up clinical medicine. As I say, I jumped in with my eyes wide closed, and it gave me like a big identity crisis. And I didn't, at that time, as we talked about when you were on my podcast, you've got this challenge and it feels bad and awful at the time, but looking back at it, it really gave me what I call my life of luxury. So I say I have a life of luxury, and I don't mean I have a Louis Vuitton handbag. I mean, I get to go swimming and I get to work flexibly so that I can spend time with my kids and be there when they have lunch, they come home for lunch, or when they're unwell, or, when we just want to have a hug, for example. So I definitely have that amazing lifestyle. And during that period of time where I was struggling, it really gave me the tools that I used on myself, but also now use with my clients to help them. Because even if their struggles are related to weight or different things, the underlying struggle is about emotions and how you think about things. So it's the same struggle underneath. You just might have different symptoms of it. So, yeah, go on.
Well, I love that you said the life of luxury, because that's like, yes, she said it. That's because we didn't prime each other. But speaker life is pretty fabulous. But there's a lot of freedom, a lot of opportunities, right, that you might not otherwise have. Yes, there's a grind and it doesn't happen overnight, but there are some beautiful rewards. And that life of luxury, being able to be there for one of your four beauties, right, when they wanted you, right at the moment. If you're in a clinic somewhere, it would be an ordeal to pull away, to be able to be there for them. That is luxurious. That is something that a lot of people don't have the privilege of being able to do. So the weights and balances, right, of the time, energy, and resources of your life that you put in to getting your voice out there, but then also those beautiful rewards of a bigger identity, a bigger impact, a bigger brand. Honestly, you've become a very recognized brand. And yes, that pretty fabulous speaker life. So I love that you're doing that. Are there any other books on the horizon? What are you thinking in that department?
I would like to write another book, but I haven't got there yet. And at the moment, I am focusing on marketing this book because I think that writing the book is the easiest bit and marketing the book is the more difficult bit. So yes, but not yet.
Yeah, no, that's such the truth when it comes to book writing, right? People think they're going to write a book and all of a sudden they're going to be famous, and it definitely doesn't happen that way. Do you have it? Can you show it to us for those
Yes,
who
of
are
course I can.
on video?
I
Yeah.
can.
Okay. Oh, that's so
It says not for
interesting.
resale on it. This is like the
Right across your eyeballs. Building simple habits to a healthy me.
Yeah.
Love it.
And it's
So,
really simple. So, like, it's got worksheets in it, and you go through and you think, okay, where am I now in all four of my pillars, my healthy living pillars? Where am I now? And what do I want them to look like? And how do I get there? And that's basically the framework. And it's quite easy. But it's fun to go through because you start to think, you start to create that motivation that, oh my goodness, my life could be like this. This is what I want my life to be. And you create that vision and then you start to work towards that vision. So it's super simple. It's not a science textbook. It's very easy. It's very simple. It's bridging that doing gap. You've already got the knowledge. You just have to change the doing gap.
okay, again, we didn't prime each other, and this is just so much fun. So that's the exact approach that I take with speakers when we very first come together. Where are you now? Where do you want to be? And what's that gap that's keeping you from where you are to where you want to be? And once you can figure out the solutions within the gap, which is different for every person, then that becomes the bridge that gets them to where they want to be. And I guess the same is true for health and well-being. So I love that. That's how that's the structure that you begin with. That's fabulous. So tell me a little bit about that. Let's say that now you've got this book and you're thinking about marketing it. Do you feel like it's been a door opener for you to get on stages outside of your podcast? Have you even started kind of going down that road? What's your bridge to get your book from where it is to
Yeah,
into more
that's a good
hands?
question. So, so in terms of on stage, I would happily do on stage, but I do live in Spain, and people here obviously speak Spanish and Catalan, and the book is in English, and I do all my marketing in English at the moment. So I don't have, and I also do all my coaching in English. So I don't have that capacity to do another language. And if I were to do speaking, I could do European speaking, or I could go to the UK or the States, which feels not daunting in that I can't do it, but more daunting in I haven't got someone to organize it for me. Like, it's the organization which is the daunting bit. So in terms of how I have marketed it thus far, I have obviously I've got lots of reviews. Now, I don't know, you probably know better than I do about reviews, but people say, oh, you have to get loads of reviews. And then some people say, oh, no, you don't have to get reviews. So I got a bit confused about that, but I got some reviews, which were really from sharing like a review copy with lots of physicians. So I have lots of physicians who've left reviews, which is fabulous because I want to know that, other people agree with me. I don't want to be the unicorn who says, hey, do something totally different. But no, they're saying, actually, you know what? This is a really good book. And I would recommend it to my patients to help them make those changes, because a lot of physicians don't have time to help you make those changes. They want you to make those changes, but they haven't got the capacity to teach you to make those changes. So yeah, that's been my strategy so far. And obviously I have an email list and I mention it from time to time on my podcast, and going out to other people's podcasts and talking to other people on podcasts. So at the moment, I feel I'm tied geographically. Perhaps when my kids are older, I might travel a little bit more and talk a little bit more, but I kind of haven't got that far in my vision board yet.
Well, this is another fabulous example of the speaker life, right? You get to do that. This is your season of life. You don't want to necessarily do a lot of international travel. That's going to take you away from your home and your family. And you have certain circumstances regionally that is going to limit your on-stage talks regionally. So you get to design it, right? You get to design how you're going to do that through your podcast, through your books, through getting on other people's podcasts. That is brilliant. and beautiful example of exactly what we've been talking about. Getting your voice out there can look so different based on your non-negotiables. And I really, really love that you saw that, where you are, where you like to be, and the gap in between, and you designed the way it's going to work for you for right now. It might be different in the next season. But you've done it in a pretty, talk about reviews. I always really study, and please, anybody, any speaker, if you're going to be on somebody else's podcast, watch theirs, right? If they happen to have a YouTube channel or a show, or get on and listen to their show. Don't just go and take up space on their podcast when you haven't even looked at their podcast. So that's a big deal for me. That's something I speak about with my speakers. It's important. But with regards to your podcast, I did check it out before I got onto your show. And just one of the sources that I saw had over 500 5-star reviews just on your podcast alone. I haven't even seen your reviews for your book or on some of the other podcast platforms. That's pretty hard to do with a podcast, is get people to review you. Even some of the bigger ones, they don't necessarily have that many reviews. So you've done really great in that department. And for me, it just meant, wow, she must really have something to say that is getting some results. So I tuned in even more. But I'm just saying all of that because the fact that you chose your journey and it's resonating and it's building your brand, and your prosperity, right, on your level in attracting those premium level clients. So when a person comes to you and they've heard your podcast and they know they want to make some changes, they're already warmed up. Do you find that it's easier to work with those people who are a little bit more familiar with your process versus somebody who kind of maybe comes in cold?
Yeah, definitely. And it's not so much just easier to work with them, but it's also much easier to present the program, because they know they've basically come with their mind made up, or a lot of people have come with their mind made up, as opposed to, for example, if you're running Facebook ads and then you've got totally cold traffic and then you're talking to these people and they're like, who are you? What are you talking about? It's such a horrible place to be. It's not where I want to be. I want to be having chats with people who are genuinely interested in what I have to offer. Now, I'm not saying they have to sign up. Of course they don't, but they come knowing and thinking, is this actually what is going to help me get there? And I can help them make that decision, as opposed to, you have no idea what I'm talking about. And like, it feels like you have to convince them. And that's not where I want my business to be. I want to be spending my time with people who are genuinely interested in whether I can help them. And then obviously, if I can help them, getting on and me helping them.
Well, I love that whole dichotomy and that process. Instead of you going out and hunting down clients, I'm sure you've got your marketing flow and the things that you do, but you're really just getting your voice out there, making yourself known, and people come to you, which I really, really love that way of doing things. Whether you are, I don't know, really in any area of life, whether you are an expert in an area, you can become known as the specialist doctor in this space and people come and seek you out. Or whether you are an expert speaking about, women who want to get fit and fabulous over the age of 40. Who do you go to? Well, the obvious answer is Dr. Orlena, because she's really gotten her voice out there. So you might be the best kept secret in the world, somewhere in a corner of the world, making women over 40 fit and fabulous, right? But if nobody knows it, how do they know to come to you? And the steps that you've taken to become findable is, to me, key to that level of success. And so I just applaud you and thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much.
And to that end, I know that there are a lot of our listeners who are going to want to know how to find you. How can they best connect with you?
Well, thank you so much for asking. Well, I have a podcast, which is called Fit and Fabulous at 40 and Beyond with Dr. Orlena. I think there might be two who have very similar names. So mine is Fit and Fabulous at 40 and Beyond with Dr. Orlena, with a photograph of myself. I have a website, which is drorlena.com. And when I was talking about having a podcast and it feels like a very one-way street, I also have a Facebook group, which goes side by side with the podcast. But I love the Facebook group because it's where conversation can happen and people can talk to me and say, hey, I'm stuck with this. Or I often have little just inspirational questions that I ask people regularly, like, how many fruits and vegetables have you eaten today? Or how many steps have you done today? As a little bit of accountability, and people answer those and say, oh, I'm going to go and do more because you've inspired me to. So I really love my Facebook group as well.
Is the Facebook group private to your clients or public?
No, it's open to everybody. It's a private group, but it's open to everybody.
Okay. And you just find it by putting in Fit and Fabulous.
Okay. I think it is. I think the URL is groups/healthy Dr. Orlena, but essentially, yeah, it's on my website. You can find the link to the website.
Orlena. Groups/healthy Dr. Orlena. Okay. I'm sure if I just Googled Dr. Orlena healthy, right, then it would probably take them to the Facebook page. Yep. Okay, fabulous. So now as we're wrapping up, what I would love for you to share with this audience is you and I are all about impact, making a true and lasting transformative difference in other people's lives, right? So what is maybe one key strategy, something that you've learned along the way that boosts that level of impact that somebody could just easily pick up and do every single day, and they'll get there? So what is a tactic or a strategy that you? It's
a really good question. And I think the strategy that I will choose to share with people is actually gratitude, and thinking the thing about gratitude is it helps you change your mindset from what could be a negative mindset to a positive mindset. Think about all the amazing things that I have, how lucky I am to have such amazing things. And when you start building your gratitude and really seeing, wow, I am lucky, I've got such amazing things, that then has an impact in whatever you want to choose. So whether you're a mother with your kids, you turn up in a better way, or a partner or work, or whatever it is you're doing, if you focus on yourself first, you then have more energy to give to other people. And I think gratitude is such a small but mighty shift. And it's easy to do once you get into that habit of doing it. It's just a little way of seeing the world in a different way.
Okay, this is so fabulous. I'm so glad we're ending on this because this is such an important topic. One thing that I do with my clients before we start any sessions, especially the group session, is that I ask them to share their wins. And generally my sessions are every 2 weeks. So what have your wins been in the last 2 weeks? And to me, that's to get them to shift from all the things they want to do, all the things that they're still working towards, to recognizing what has actually already taken place. We can overlook how far we've come because we're focused on where we want to go. And that gratitude piece is so important. And what I've found is that at first, like, everybody's like, oh, I don't know. The last 2 weeks are pretty uneventful. I don't really know. But then once one person shares something like, oh yeah, some good things happen. And then the next person shares and the next person shares. It's almost like this contagious in all the best ways, right? A contagious kind of thing. And shifting that focus. And you and I spoke about this on your podcast. And I love that we're bringing it now to mine. Shifting the focus from what we can't have, from what we wish we had, or, whatever it was, to really recognizing the good and flowing in. That gratitude is such a big piece of that for ourselves, for the things that we want to do for our clients. So thank you for bringing that to light. Now, what do you say when you can't think about those things, that you're like, just things are not going well for whatever reason, and it's really hard to get into that place of gratitude? Do you have some kind of ways to
there are lots of ways. There are lots of ways, but I just wanted to mention, you were talking about wins, and one of the things that I find with wins, and I think it's a really useful tool to have, is that the human brain likes different things. So when we're doing our wins, we often say, oh, my win is that I've done something new. I've been to the gym for the first time, or I've been swimming, if you're talking about health and wellness. But what the brain doesn't see is all of those wins that are actually habits that you are doing without thinking about it. So my win is that, as always, I have been eating vegetables, or as always, I have been going swimming. And we just discount those. We don't even look at them and say that they are wins. And so one of the things that I really celebrate as well is that counts as a double win, because you didn't even see it. It's so routine that actually you need to give yourself double points for that, because you're just doing it automatically. To go to your, like, what do I do when life is miserable? It can be difficult when life is miserable, but there are ways of thinking about this. And one thing that really differentiates between negative brain and positive brain is whenever we have a challenge, positive brain will either accept that challenge, in which case it kind of stops being a challenge, or it will look for gifts in that challenge. And those gifts can be potential gifts that you can't see right now, but they could be gifts of building up the strength of my positive brain. So I'm continuing to say positive, even though this is really challenging. It could be a gift of feeling inspired. So, hey, you know what, this thing happened, so I'm going to make something else happen. It could be a gift of knowledge. So this is really difficult, but now I know something about myself that I can then implement. An easy example of this being, I burnt my breakfast the other day and learned if I leave breakfast to attend itself, it's going to burn, and I actually have to pay a little bit of attention to it. And another thing is, if you're really struggling with what you're grateful for, imagine having it taken away. Imagine what life is like without that thing. And particularly, I think, for when you're feeling stressed and overwhelmed with your children and life and jobs and things like that, and think, okay, so what would life be like without my children? And I know at times, at the heat of the moment, we're like, oh, it'd be great. It would be like peaceful and quiet. But really and truly, we don't mean that. We mean, yeah, actually, my children are difficult and hard, but they're healthy. And I'm so amazingly grateful for that. My son was unwell last year, and he's now a year from like the turning point when he started to get better. And oh my goodness, I'm so grateful that he is so much better. And when he's shouting and screaming, and I think, yeah, at least he's healthy.
Oh, that's that shift in focus is also a bit of a shift in the energy too, right? When you're focused on something, you're putting your energy towards that. So if you're focused on, woe is us, why is my son sick? Why is this horrible thing happening to us? Versus, I'm so thankful he's still with us, and we're on this fight and journey together to get him to a healthier place, right? Your energy goes in that direction. And I know that you are a doctor and you understand the value of energy. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I think energy is something that is really interesting. And as physicians in modern medicine, it's not really like energy, and how our body works in terms of energy isn't hugely understood, except that we do know we have what is essentially electricity running around our body. But I think something that has always, or for a long time, been understood is our mindset towards our own health and wellness. And I remember, oh my goodness, so long ago, when I started at medical school in 1996, I remember one of the first lectures we had was actually by a gentleman, a professor at that time, and he dealt with people who had arthritis. And he gave this story of two patients that he had. And one of them was a very middle-class girl who had juvenile arthritis, which is very, very debilitating. And her sort of take on it really was, oh my goodness, poor me, what am I going to do? And she basically stayed in bed and did nothing. As opposed to another young man who was from a much less affluent background, and he kind of just got on with life, and he started up a pool table. I don't know if you know what pool is. It's a game that we play in the UK. It's like billiards or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he started a club for people who have arthritis to play pool. Now, obviously, if you have arthritis, it's kind of difficult to play pool because you can't really hold, you're not going to be super good at it. But that was kind of the point, was like he wanted to do that anyhow. And so I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to create a club. And so that mindset of, hey, I'm going to achieve my best life whatever that looks like, as opposed to, yeah, I'm just going to give up and stay in bed. And I think that has been understood for a long period of time, that people understand that really your mindset really impacts what you get out of life.
Oh my goodness. Okay. This is the perfect way to end, because that is so true. That's true in your health. It's true in your speaking career. It's true in your family, right? It's just true every corner of your life. And if we can get that, we're going to definitely have a greater impact in every one of those areas. So our efforts will go further, faster, and happier.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Dr. Orlena. This has been such a pleasure getting to spend this time with you this morning. You're a wealth of knowledge. For our beautiful SpeakPact guests, make sure to look her up. Definitely look her podcast up, whether or not you're over 40 yet, or quite let's get to 40 fabulous, right? So that we can be fabulous beyond that. Again, it's Fit and Fabulous at 40 and Beyond. You can also find her book. You can find her Facebook group. Look her up, and then give us flowers for being here with you today. And the way you give us flowers together is give us the like. Share this episode with other people that you feel like would really enjoy it and get some value out of it. That's the way that you can let us know that you got value out of it today. So thank you for being with us. And thank you, Dr. Orlena, for being with me.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Right. And for everybody else, ciao, ciao for now.